We are talking about the Washington Capitals.
Caps.
Joining us now, you heard a little snapshot of Ozzy there, is our friend Mr. Neil Greenberg from the Fancy Stats Substack. What up, Greenberg? How are you, brother?
I'm doing great. Good to talk to you guys. How's it going?
Going good, man.
Here's what we need, Neil. Get us up to speed on what appears to me two pretty big trades for the Caps. Let's start with Kyrou. I'm sure I said that right.
Yeah, I mean the Capitals kind of transformed their top six in less than 48 hours. This is they do two different things. The forward they got from St. Louis.
Kyrou, correct?
I'm sorry?
Jordan
Kyrou?
Correct? Yeah.
Yeah. Kyrou's the upside play. He had 18 goals, 46 points, which looked disappointing compared to his other seasons, but the underlying metrics suggest that he's played far better than those box score stats indicate. There are some less traditional stats out there that have him finishing in the 84th percentile offensively, the 96th percentile defensively, 91st percentile overall. When he was on the ice, St. Louis controlled about 60% of the goals you would expect after adjusting for shot quality. He also led the Blues in 5-on-5 shot attempt differential with 136 dangerous rush shot attempts. That was an area that Washington struggled last season. So I think this is a classic buy low, sell high situation where the Capitals appear to have done their due diligence and got somebody that could provide some upside.
Are these moves telling you anything in particular?
I don't know if these are the moves you make if you think that your superstar, Alex Ovechkin, is not going to be around next year. I think that you would. Go ahead.
This to me seems like they're building up around Ovi.
Right, I agree. I think if you truly believe that Ovechkin is not going to be on the roster, you probably make moves that open the window 2 or 3 years from now. I think these moves open the window for 2 or 3 years. Alex Tuch from Buffalo, he's a guy, 33 goals, 66 points, very highly regarded by the advanced metrics. He's a legitimate top-line winger who contributes at both ends of the ice. He definitely tilts the ice as well. I mean, these are two really good trades. I mean, this is, as I said, I think that this is, trades that maybe you probably don't make if you think that your horizon's further down the road because you're losing a superstar. I gotta give Washington credit for this. These seem like two really good top six forwards that they're bringing in.
And Tuch got an 8-year deal?
Yeah. Was that just a salary dump?
Yeah, so obviously, he's in the long-term plans. They had to give up some stuff to get both these guys, which you would expect. But Tuch's 33 goals, based on his shot quality and, strength and all that stuff, you'd expected him to score about 24 goals last year. So there is a little bit of a discrepancy there. But he definitely tilted the ice for Buffalo. And, look, even if they got 25 goals from the guy, that's still pretty acceptable considering where their top six is. And, I have to believe that Washington felt like, there's obviously nothing but upside here. But it does look like they prioritize some of the stats behind the box score on both these guys and feel like, the sum that the added value that they'll give Washington is probably not fully realized yet.
Talking with our buddy Neil Greenberg, Fancy Stats Substack. Make sure you're a subscriber. All right, so you like both these moves. The Caps didn't have to give up much to get Tuch. I guess Buffalo just didn't want to pay him and knew he was going to free agency. Now, the move to get Kyrou from St. Louis, you give up McMichael and the 16th overall pick and a prospect. Do you think the compensation was fair? How big of a deal is losing Connor McMichael?
I think it's a big deal. I think it's a big deal. Like I said, if you think you're not going to be able to contend for a couple of years, it's probably a bigger deal. But look, you have to give up something to get something, and the first round draft picks in the NHL, they function a lot differently than they do in some other sports. I mean, after the first couple of picks, the chances of getting an NHLer to even play 20 games in the NHL drops pretty significantly, and it drops, rapidly after each successive pick. Maybe you think that Washington can draft better than most. 16, you don't think, doesn't sound like it's a very low pick. But, again, to get a proven performer versus a kid that you probably don't see for, 2, 3, 4 years at best, makes a lot of sense for this squad, especially thinking that they can contend this year.
All right, and so as this gets moving forward, what do we think of this Caps roster? I'll be totally honest. I think there was more hype on Connor McMichael than probably was deserved, and I swear some of it was just that his name was so close to Connor McDavid. Like, I'm not that upset.
He was the better Mick player in the Connor Mick in the league at some points, but
no, he wasn't.
Look, he was a good young player. But again, I mean, you're getting, you probably got the two best players in the trades, right? Which says something. And I do think, look, you have to give something to get something, right? I mean, you do have to give something up of value. And again, I think this more signals that Washington is not ready to fold it up yet and move on to the post-Ovechkin era. I think that they still believe that they can contend. Hockey is very fluky. We saw these playoff teams, how many wins that they had and how deep they went, and you really just have to get into the playoffs and then figure everything else out from there. So I do think that the moves make a lot of sense for Washington. Carolina is obviously the cream of the crop in the Metro, but they had more points than Pittsburgh, who made the playoffs, more wins, I should say, and they had as many wins as Philadelphia, who was in the playoffs. So, they're not that far behind. It's a very contentious division, and, two top six forwards can make a huge impact in getting you where you want to be.
So you believe this move made them more of a contender?
I think at the very least, it doesn't drop them out of contender status. They could have just as easily, fire sailed this whole thing, and then we're looking at, like a Chicago, Winnipeg rebuilding type situation. But that's not what I see. I see that they feel like they kind of missed it by inches in the Metro playoffs last year, and this gets them over that hump.
And basically, they had to make trades here because this free agent session in hockey is not expected to be a world beater, right?
Yeah, and it probably also is a referendum on the draft too, to say, okay, we can give up, a first round draft pick in the middle or so to get a proven player that can help us right now. Look, sometimes these type of trades look great on paper, or at least are explainable, and end up fizzling out. But looking at the underlying numbers and exactly where they fit and what Washington needed, I think that they were two really smart trades by Washington's front office.
Okay. Got our buddy Neil Greenberg from the Fancy Stats Substack. Well, Greenberg, let me sneak in a whiz one. AJ DeBonsa is the number 1 overall pick. What do you think? Is he the right fit?
Yeah, I think you had to go with the best player. I don't really think there was ever a chance that they weren't taking him. Any smoke that we heard was probably just to see what someone would offer for the number 1 pick. But I think it's a solid signing. If they got, they got a really interesting roster going into this next season. I've been a Trae Young fan for a while. I like what he does. Obviously, Anthony Davis is, has done a lot in his career and can certainly, be a focal point. But that gives you 3 players, not including Alex Sarr, that you can rely on and really build around. I mean, that's a solid foundation. We've talked about this before. The NBA, has become a multi-star league in terms of on the roster. They could certainly have that. And I think that they can jump into the playoff picture. I don't know, how competitive they can be. That we'll have to wait to see, mostly on health and stuff. But to see them jump from 40 range, that just doesn't seem far-fetched to me based on what they have going on right now.
I agree.
I know they have a lot of pieces, I think, also young pieces that can help them out tremendously.
Hey, Greenberg.
Yeah, we talked about this with Washington Commanders a couple years ago when, Jane Daniel was there, and we talked about expectations and how, the upside was pretty big. I mean, the upside for Washington is tremendous for the Wizards because, look, they're probably not going to get much worse than 17 wins. It's very few NBA teams do. And as I said, they have a lot of pieces there. I think they're going to be the sexy pick in terms of, jumping into the contender conversation. But I really do think over 40 wins is very reasonable.
Hey, I just pressed something. Everybody still hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Greenberg, how much are you enjoying Brandon Ayuk's social media?
This is a roller coaster.
It's a wild ride. Dude.
I look, if he ends up in Washington, it's going to be the biggest, of course this happened. Why did it take so long? Why do we have to endure it all? And if not, it's going to be like, well, what was all these? What was it all for? It was like a big letdown.
Then you're gonna see him
my
going out
hope is he comes to Washington and it's lights out. He just has like a career year and sandbagged everyone, and then happens. But it's enjoyable. Look, there's not a lot of NFL offseason content yet, so you got to be grateful for what you have.
Hell yeah.
We'll do an hour on the phones later. Greenberg, thank you, buddy. Appreciate the time.
Love you guys. Talk to you soon.
All right, bro.
Good to hear from you, brother. That's our guy, Neil Greenberg, the Fancy Stats Substack. Make sure you are subscribing. You can give him a follow at N Greenberg.